Why not Microsoft lah? Kidding.
SAP is a German. We are manufacturer lah. They have certain considerations for, manufacturers. Nothing against Microsoft lah. Okay?
It's fine. For those listening now, like by then you're listening to this, I'm like ex-Microsoft already, so I think it's fine. Yeah,
it's okay lah. It's okay.
Okay, as long as they use Databricks.
Yeah. even this news is like very private, but I think by the time it's out, like everybody will know from LinkedIn. But I mean, like what you say, right?
Yeah.
Work is work, friendship is friendship. So now it's like, we take work aside lah. At least for me, yeah.
This is Andrian.
And this is Ray. Welcome to the Talk Live podcast.
Every 2 weeks, we'll invite a new guest and
In every session, we'll dig into their life, relationships, and perspectives.
one question at a time.
Let's Talk Live!
Yay.
Welcome to the Talk La podcast. This is your host, Ray. And today, this is part 2 with Evan and Han Jun. If you haven't checked out part 1 is basically all things related. I mean, these 2 episodes are all things related to family business. Part 1, we really cover on how they ended up, their journey that led them to where they are today, which is running a part of the family business, right? Yeah, so I think in this specific episode, we're going to cover more about, because working family is like such a big topic. It can go on hours and hours. We're just discussing offline, right? But I think in the next, 20, 30 minutes, we really want to cover more on what is working with family, like the family dynamics, upsides of being part of family business, the downsides, the struggles. So all that and more in this episode. Yeah. So who wants to kick things off? Or you wanna start kick things off, Evan? Yeah.
Sure.
Go for it.
I guess maybe I'll start off with
maybe context on what day in day out you do in the business, and then it's easier for people to also understand. Yeah.
Sure. So, I primarily focus in business development, so getting new clients, building new partnerships, and also expansion of the business. Second role, of course, is helping out with the operations side. I do have a dotted line to the operations. So anything related to the improvements, training, how the processes are, also will be under me. Mm-hmm. But from a day-to-day perspective, I'll be mostly managing my account managers and business development managers, and strategizing on how to get clients and which clients they're getting, and strategizing on deals and the costings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So really more on like it's like the front line lah.
Pretty much
the front line of the company.
Correct.
And operations is all the contract management, like what you say, HR, training, this kind of stuff. So really the bread and butter, like the one that brings in the deals and
it's
stuff.
like the general charge in front.
Yeah. Okay. that's So I think
pretty much.
So just if you guys really didn't listen to part 1, right? If you haven't, jump to part 1. But anyway, Evan is now part of this managed cybersecurity company. Yeah. So they actually serve different enterprise, commercial, or even public sector customers to manage even their data centers or cybersecurity things. Yeah. So they even have your own solution now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a bit context of Evan, right? So I think day in, day out, like you're doing this, right? Obviously you're managing like your account managers, but there are different, like your dad is in, your brother is in, right? Like, can you briefly share about, the work relationship with them? Do you guys keep things professional? How is that done, right? Because it's always interesting to know, like, okay, what's having a boss that is your dad, and then colleagues that with your brothers that are in. Yeah.
I think it's the dynamic got it's something that I had to get used to for sure.
Yeah.
But something that we did talk about, and my dad actually did talk to all of us, the brothers. When it comes to the business, it's all about business, right? Business. Anything out of that, keep it as separate. So this has always been really drilled into our minds.
So it's like a principle, right?
Yeah, it's a principle that's been really drilled into our minds since since we were young, and I think we brought that into the work environment now that we're in. So my brother did join us about coming to 3 years ago, and of course he's been sort of learning the ropes. I've been also trying to guide him and teach him on some of the things that I've learned. But of course, there will be certain situations where, you bring work home, or sometimes you bring some of the family matters to work. So,
for example,
well, I mean, for example, like if my parents had an argument, right, and we'll be chatting about certain things, and these kind of things can also come up during conversations as well. So this, there are certain situations that this happens. Yeah. But I think we have a good understanding that like I said earlier, business is business. Whatever we are doing related to work stays in work. So if we have any discussions or disagreements, this is all related to what's going on
at work.
At work.
Okay.
Right? It's nothing personal. Nothing personal against my dad or against my brother. So of course it's not easy, right? Yep. When my dad is like whacking me for something that I did, but it's I do understand. I do understand. Okay, maybe I've made a mistake, and I learned from that. But it's hard. It's hard to sort of balance that internally, right?
Yeah,
internally, it's not easy.
You naturally, I don't know, like, sorry for cutting you. Like, I naturally will feel, take it personal. Because it's from your parents, right? Or if you're for a brother and they say something, So,
I think for us, so my family dynamic, my mom doesn't get involved in the business at all. So, she sort of keeps us accountable for these things. So this is sort of how we sort of balance that, right? Where my mom always reminds me and my brother as well, like, don't take it personal, right? This is, this is just work, and your dad maybe had a hard day or so. Maybe he's getting old, and he just wants you guys to quickly accelerate, take over the business. So I think that also helps with the whole dynamic. She helps keep things accountable between us and our and the work as well.
That's true. And I just have like one quick follow-up question. Like, actually you did answer already. Like, your mom was the one that keeps everyone accountable for that, because there's a lot of gray area, and like, you come back home, you go to work, it's just very hard to separate it. But it's really great to know. I'm not sure how every different family business run differently, but it's like very good to know that there is like this principle built in that from the beginning, before you step in, and from young, it's like seeding, right? The process, like work is work, family is family, and like all this. I'm not sure like if your parents will always say like, blood is thicker than water and stuff, right? They say like, whatever happens to family, whether they betray you or what, it's still family. This kind of like upbringing and stuff sort of will shape. So I think that's like interesting to know, and it's also good to have some aspect of a family that's really not involved in the business, so that it's just easier to be like a third party to mediate things, right?
I would say it's also when we first started, I think it was also hard for my dad, because this is the first time he's experiencing this as well. So he also didn't really know how to juggle all of this. So I sort of had to see things from his perspective as well, to understand where he's coming from when he's maybe a bit angry or talking about work or frustrated at home. So of course over the years I would say it's gotten a bit better. We know how to balance it, and if it's something very important that we really need to discuss, we'll discuss it no matter where we are. But if there's nothing to discuss about, nothing to talk about, then we'll be back to father and son relationship, brother and brother relationship.
That's interesting, right? Do you ever feel like, okay, there's now it's like very separated, but like how do you switch off the roles, the hats, like so dynamically?
Well, you never switch off, right?
Yeah, it's like
you don't switch off, but I think it really depends on what's going on in terms on the work. If there's anything,
I think you kind of sort of, I wouldn't say you switch off, but more like you transform the way you interact.
Yeah.
It's before and after working together with your family members, it's very different. Okay. So before it would be totally just father, son, mother, son relationship.
Yep.
And after it would just transform into a father/boss, mother/boss relationship.
Yeah.
And the degree to which how much percentage is boss and how much percentage is father and all those kind of thing depends on the individual and personally if you're for my example, my parents, they're quite laid back. I feel like they still treat me more as like a son even in the office setting, more so than the boss kind of thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like everything, like actually anything in life goes, there's no clear cut yes or no unless it's like the law and stuff, right? Or ethics.
Basically impossible to keep it entirely separate.
You can't.
Yeah. Okay, this is something new for me because I've never experienced this. I've not done businesses with family, so I think this like completely new perspective for me.
Yeah.
And it's good to know like there's like a spectrum, as a son, as an employee, as a boss, that kind. So everything is like a spectrum, and you sort of internalize and live with it and adapt, right? Because that's what you sign up for. Sign up for being part of the family business. Yeah. So that's good. Yeah. So what about you, Han Jun?
So as I briefly interrupted Evan a little bit just now, you can kind of get a little bit of insight on my part already. So, but I'll just share a little bit on what I do day to day, and and in the company and things like that. So basically, as I was mentioning earlier in part one, I have taken more on maybe like a management trainee kind of role, looking in more into operations and also how to drive change and innovation in the company. And so my position is actually something like an innovation engineer or an innovation role, basically, kind of like a new department, mainly because our company is not small, but it's not big either. It's sort of like a medium size. It's ongoing transition phase, basically. We are implementing a lot of new technologies, a new ERP system, SAP to be specific. And I'm...
Why not Microsoft lah? Kidding.
SAP is a German, we are manufacturer lah. They have certain considerations for, manufacturers. Nothing against Microsoft lah. Okay?
It's fine. For those listening now, like by then you're listening to this, I'm like ex-Microsoft already, so I think it's fine. Yeah,
it's okay lah. It's okay.
As long as they use Databricks.
Yeah. even this news is like very private, but I think by the time it's out, like everybody will know from LinkedIn. But I mean, like what you say, right?
Yeah.
Work is work, friendship. So now it's like, we take work aside lah. At least for me,
So day to day, basically, I manage projects lah. Initially, I started with an external project just to get a hang of the business, understand all the various parts, and But now more internal. Basically, the SAP project is what I'm handling. I don't have a team under me, as in directly in the organization chart, but I do coordinate with the various departments and teams to sort of make the project happen lah. I think if any of you have basically dealt with ERP or SAP systems before, you will know that it basically involves the entire company.
It's very complex lah.
Yeah.
And basically every employee.
Yeah.
So so day to day, where do I start?
I think you already mentioned sort of your day to day from just the description, right? You got MT, and then you basically understand different parts of the business.
Yes.
But I have like an interesting follow-up question, and later Evan, you can supplement even more, right?
Yeah.
Because you guys are like the son, right? And then you're coming in, and then your parents are like sort of like the managing the business and stuff, right? They started it. So would it be like how do you actually like what do other employees think about you when you come in? Like
Okay.
they would always have this, wow, boss punya son.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Boss
yeah.
son, like how they
Yeah.
interact. Yeah. So
Okay, let me give you a bit of a background of the company then. So the company was formed by my parents and my mom's brothers, so
Okay.
my uncles. So to say that my parents are the only bosses is not true. There are multiple bosses.
okay.
So I'm also just one of the boss son.
Okay.
Certainly there's a lot of special treatment by
Nice. For example.
by employees.
Okay. They buy you food, help you massage your feet, that kind of stuff.
Not that kind of stuff lah, but you know the things that I think I'm sure most of your audience are working,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
And so surely you would have to interact with colleagues on a daily basis,
Yep.
and certain things that you need to follow up on or chase for or look for and search for and things like that. And all those are just made a lot easier if you are
Oh, true.
in that position.
Yeah.
You don't have people maybe telling you off. Yeah, I mean it's nice. That's some of the nice parts of it. But at the same time, if you are not too comfortable with that initially, because you don't really want to be
Yeah.
treated specially. You still want to make friends at work. You want to make it a pleasant and enjoyable working experience for everyone involved. Not just yourself, but also the other employees. And then it is a daily struggle lah, to
Yeah.
sort of maintain or like try to balance that kind of thing. And so it's interesting, which and this is something that will probably go on for quite a long time if I keep talking about it, but
It's fine. Yeah.
but yeah, so it's how to best summarize it. You just kind of have to learn to live with it lah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think something which I experienced the same thing. I think the ease of which people work with you is definitely at another level. Right?
Given lah.
It's
right?
a given.
Given, right?
Right. I don't need to fill in any forms. I don't need to
Go through the
all the processes and whatnot.
Mm.
The flexibility is there. I wouldn't be here today in your podcast if I didn't have such flexibility.
Thanks. By the way, just a fun fact. Yeah, probably I keep joking at them. I mean, we had lunch, even though I paid them for lunch. But it's out of goodwill, right? Like that just for the audience, if you're listening now all this time, like there's probably like one of the podcasts that money is involved lah. Two of the Tylos joining this podcast.
No lah.
But for me, I think something that I've done over the years, and people, I do feel it has changed.
Yeah.
When I first came in, I felt that people did have that thinking like, oh, this boss son. I'm a bit different because my dad's the only boss there. Like there's no other boss. It's only my dad.
Okay,
So
okay.
this boss's son, what does he know?
Yep.
Can he do anything? So I felt people were thinking that way about me. So I did try my best to really work my hardest and prove people wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm not just there to sit around and enjoy myself. I'm there to really do business and really be serious about that.
Yeah.
So I think today it is different, right?
Yeah.
People see that, okay, at least I get the job done, right?
Yeah.
I get the job done, and I feel that they respect that.
I think
as
the
well.
results are important.
Yeah, the results are important.
And if they can see that you're actually contributing, they will
To the
feel a little
business
bit
lah,
better lah.
to the business.
Yeah, to
Correct.
the business. Yeah.
I think Evan, spot on. You hit on one of the point that I wanted to ask when you guys were talking, right? Like, did you guys feel like the pressure, right? Because you guys are like, like the sons of the bosses, right? Or like family members of the bosses. Like when you come in, even though like you have this benefits of being able, like people will treat you well and stuff, but I'm sure intrinsically inside it's like, oh, you want to pick things up quickly. You want to not just have this special kind of treatment, but really show your value, your new perspective and things. But I think in the beginning it should be very hard, right? Because you need to learn a lot of new things, the different ropes, right? Like what you say, and to really prove yourself, right? So
I think for this, everybody will have a little bit of a different experience,
Yep.
going in. And for me, I was quite lucky. The 1.5 years that I spent in Daikin, it being a smaller company out of a larger multinational, it gave me a lot of insights into how businesses operate. At least if in the perspective of like you're kind of small to medium company and you're trying to become scale even bigger and do more sales or whatever, or you want to expand your operations and things like that. And it being a small company, I was able to basically observe and see how they do their management, how they implement certain changes or implement certain systems and processes within the company. So that gave me like an avenue basically. So when I joined my family business, I knew that those were the things that I really kind of wanted to do. So so that kind of gave me a little bit of footing lah, to sort of find my place within the company, because a lot of times you wouldn't really know where your footing is. Basically when I joined in, the first few months was like my uncle would ask me to do this, my mom would ask me to do that, my dad would ask me to do this. So I my role there's no defined role. I don't even know who to apply leave from. I don't have
That's why you're in the Talk Loud podcast now lah. You don't need to apply.
You don't need to apply leave. You just take leave.
you just don't go in, right? Is it?
But I think
so I knew where I kind of wanted to be and what kind of role that I wanted to play. The innovation and change role, and so that also put me in quite a lucky position lah, to basically work with the various departments and team leads and stuff like that to basically make the necessary changes. And just based on some of my experience observing how larger companies operate, and also of course the background lah. They growing up with basically both my parents are in the company, so it's basically impossible to separate the work and personal life, because every single dinner, lunch or anything, my parents will be talking about work, even since growing up. So naturally I'll pick up a little bit on those management skills, and unlike for Evan, his mom is maybe not so involved, so there's like a third party to sort of manage the situation. But for our case, it's basically almost impossible to separate.
But I would say like different families or different organizations or businesses all have different ways to make things work. And there's no one way, right? There's best practices or frameworks that you can follow or implement from outside. But at the end of the day, like if it works for your organization, your family, then by all means that's it's working lah.
I think it depends on what end goal you want to achieve lah.
So I think I just wanted to quickly summarize on that part, right? So Han Jun basically he had different MNC experience, and even arguably the YouTube, right? Some new experience that when you come into an organization, you sort of have that given credibility, right? So I really want to flip the side, because from Evan's side, right, it's really like you after graduate all in go into the family business. So to build up the credibility, it's like, oh, you're not coming in from like, oh, I'm from XYZ company. Like, okay, just take Microsoft as an example, or ex-Microsoft coming in, probably know some processes and stuff. It's really like you going in. So how did you, really build up your brand and, sort of think, what kind of, where you're at and what you can contribute to the business? Yeah.
I think something that I highlighted in the first part, I really took the time to talk to different people in the field. That for me was what helped me to really place myself where I'm at, right? Because they would give me advice. So of course my dad will be there to mentor me, but his perspective is always going to be
very top line already,
very one-sided from his side. So I also took time to talk to others, his friends,
within the organization first, or like you already started like
of course within I would talk with the different head of departments, the different leads to sort of understand the business. But I also wanted to get an outside perspective, right?
Yep.
I never had that outside
Yep.
perspective. I've always been inside this company. So the only way was to really talk to other people, really go in depth with customers, get advice from people.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And applying that advice, right? Really
Yeah.
applying that. And I really had to work hard to apply those things,
Yeah.
those principles that I learned not only just from my dad. Of course, I learned a lot from him and my parents over the years as well. Definitely, like Han Jun, it's not something that it's on and off. It's
Yeah.
it's just been there, right?
Yeah.
Even since growing up,
Yep.
parents will talk about work, they'll talk
Yep.
about business, no matter what. And so that's something that I've always had growing up, but applying all these principles, of course, did take some time because that sort of learning and guidance I never had, right, from an outside perspective.
Yeah. Just want to, I can completely resonate with that, right? Because sort of I went to technology, went to sales, okay, arguably it's not a family business, but you're fresh, right, to a company, and then they sort of will teach you and stuff. But for example, take Microsoft as an example, right? It's really enterprise sales, but you're coming in pretty fresh, right? What kind, you don't have connections, you don't have the methodologies,
Yeah.
the product knowledge is also questionable. That's something that probably the easier to pick up. But yeah, talking to different people, they'll give you, their crystallized version of principle. And sometimes do you see there's a gap, right? Okay, when you actually hear from them, it's you get it, you can resonate. But when it actually happens in front, the customer conversation, it really happened, it's a different thing to, convert that crystallization of whatever that they've shared to a real application in a business context.
For sure.
So that's something I struggled with, and I'm sure you sort of went through that journey to sort of figure out the nuts and bolts of things on your own, and probably fail a lot to it, which I feel a lot sometimes step on people's toes I don't even know, right? Because everything is tender, partners, different things, right? So you sort of learn on that front.
Yeah, definitely. I probably made a lot of people angry or pissed some people off along the way, but
And found love along the way too.
yeah, but I think I'm in a good spot now. Of course, I'm still learning,
Of course.
a lot of things, but at least I know, like you said, the nuts and bolts and how and what I should sort of do in certain situations.
Yeah, it's amazing to see, both of you, the growth. And I don't think we really talk so much about this kind of stuff, right? Every time we meet up as friends, it's very different. So I'm glad that we did this. And I hope that you guys are, really enjoying this, casual talk, right? Yeah. So understanding more.
Interesting.
It's interesting, right? Yeah. I think another topic that I really wanted to touch, and probably the last big topic for, part 2, because time is money, right? Yeah. But anyways, because everyone, you guys now really invested in the family business, right? And I in the beginning, you guys were mentioning you guys on board so that you can, for Evan specifically, it's definitely need to expand new partnerships, innovative ways, new business models. For Han Jun, it's also part of your, before you step in, you already know that you really want to do change management, process automation, really streamlining the business of doing new things.
Yeah.
So the topic is really all about innovation and what's the struggles, the challenges, because I think for you guys, probably the business, there are ways, but there are some, when I talk to different people, some businesses are really they don't need much innovation and it's already a cash cow. All they need to do is just get more orders and stuff. But so I just wanted to get, both of your perspective on driving innovation in a family business within your organization. What's, the challenges, how do you overcome it, and what's been working and not.
Okay. So for us being a manufacturer, we have to deal with a lot of physical goods. So I think our business nature is quite different to Evan's or even Wenjie's, where you deal primarily with software and, maybe there's a little bit of hardware.
Yep.
But ours is basically all hardware.
Okay.
And hardware that are so hard and heavy that you cannot lift it physically by yourself. You need a lot of machinery. And labor and all that. And so being a company that's only about 30 something years old, I think for manufacturer it's a pretty young company. Okay. And basically, like, my parents and my uncles, they started the company. There are a lot of old ways of doing things. Certainly in the last 20-30 years, has been a lot of technological advances and things like that. Some they may have picked up along the way, some maybe not. Some systems and ideas and ways of doing things that they may have picked up along the way, and some also maybe not. And so certainly there's a lot to learn and do, especially for manufacturers. I feel is because, like, you really have to you have these physical products that you really have to manage, and if you don't manage them well, and you not only run out of space, which is a prime factor. I mean, because you need land, and land costs a lot to acquire and things like that. And if you are not efficient, it's really hard to scale. You can't just say, this software that we have developed, and it doesn't require space to store it. I just sell to 100 customers and I can just do it in a day. But for us to actually have 100 customers, and we have to produce maybe at least 100 really large equipment to sell. And so I feel like innovation and change is really important, actually for all industries, but for especially for us in this medium size, where we're going through that transition to try to basically grow the company, get more orders. We have to basically implement change on all fronts. We can't just say, I want more orders this year, let's beef up the sales team. We can get 10 more sales guys in. They get the sales, but our capacity, we cannot cope. We don't have enough factory space. We don't have enough workers. We don't have enough equipment. The supply chain cannot cope and things like that. And so it's really important to maintain like a very efficient and scalable process, which is part of why we are also embarking on this SAP journey.
Got to balance all of that.
Got to balance all of that. It's all and you kind of have to multitask, and work on multiple fronts to make the necessary changes.
So chicken and egg.
Chicken and egg. A bit. It helps, I suppose, if you are part of the being in the family business, in that position, it will be easier a bit to do that role. I would say that's the good part of it.
That's cool. They really pick the best, the cream of the crop to really handle this. But I completely resonate, because manufacturing or like different businesses have different ways to innovate and scale, right? And I think for manufacturing, like what you say, it just got me thinking, and it makes so much sense.
Yes.
You really need to have a clear snapshot of where your current business is.
Yes.
And make sure everything is functioning properly, and you have like a single point of view. Easier said than done, really easier said than done. And that's why this SAP implementation will give you a clear picture on which gaps of places because it's all proven by data, and the software is almost as good as
data. The data is king.
As like what you say, there's a lot of challenges, like the people, whether they use the software right. Because if you implement this expensive software but nobody is putting the processes and the SOPs are not doing that, then it might give you a different and lead you. If you make decision off that is different. So I think that's
it's all important.
Quite interesting
to
see.
Basically get it right.
So moving on to Evan. Innovation in cybersecurity and stuff.
I think the industry is an innovative industry in its own right, but similarly, our company has been built with a lot of legacy systems. So we've started off as more towards network services. So our processes have been very limited to that, right? All these years, I think 20 over years, has been using a lot of old systems, old processes. So coming in and understanding it was one thing, but now implementing new sort of innovations in the company which ones are the right ones. Similarly, is about maintaining that balance, right?
Yeah.
We want to bring in new orders. We want to keep enhancing our technology, enhancing our people. At the same time, of course, maintaining the bottom line. That will be the most important. So, really understanding the big picture has been a very important journey for us. Earlier you mentioned about the data. I think for us, we're a bit easier. Our company is a bit smaller. We have less things to worry about. Okay, we don't need to worry about land and all these kind of things. Our main concern is more on how we can fully utilize our software and really optimize that. And at the same time, how do I optimize the number of people and the expertise that I bring in to manage my customers? So definitely enhancing new processes has been a huge part of that. Really bringing in newer technologies like Microsoft Teams is something that has really helped us along the way to make us more efficient. Bring in new HR technologies as well to
streamline processes.
Streamline the processes, right? Streamline everything, because we're really transforming into a technology company, right? We want to be a technology leader in the space, and how can we do that if we are not implementing these kind of technologies as well?
Great stuff. But in terms of the resistance, right? I'm sure in manufacturing should be higher resistance, because when you change something, it's really
difficult.
And the people that are doing those particular jobs, I think it's very different from Evan. But I'm sure there are some sort of resistance.
Still a lot of resistance.
Of course, So would like to hear a bit of struggles on that and how you guys deal with it.
I think for this change always has to come from the top. So the leaders will have to advocate for it. They have to believe in it. They have to make sure that that they themselves are convinced of it before the employees will take it on, being manufacturing is one of those that it's kind of like a aging industry, because a lot of the skilled labor that we need for our processes and our manufacturing processes, young people don't really want to do that anymore. Okay, so we are really left with a lot of older employees. Some may not know how to use a computer properly. They know how to do what they know
need to do,
and that's about it. They're happy doing that. Our factories are in Ipoh, and you really have basically a whole bunch of your employees. I would say maybe about 50%, that are fairly senior, basically very used to what they're doing. And to really change that, it's really difficult, because why? They're happy just doing this for the remaining 10 years, and then they're going to retire, and why do I need to go through all these things, Well, yes, we can kind of empathize, and you're having to get them to learn something new is always challenging, some maybe we are young, we are adaptable, we are keen to learn new things, but after a certain number of years, you can kind of understand why they would just be happier doing whatever they've been doing. But for us, it is our business, and we want it to grow. We know that it has to grow. We get the bigger picture, we get the long-term picture. And so it is a constant struggle to try to get the people to understand the need to, because first they have to understand it before they can actually, go through with that. And certainly there are also a lot of systems and processes that during the growth of the company, some people are taking on basically multiple roles despite their job title being only one role. So we also have to sort of restructure a little bit and make sure that the job scopes are clearly defined and things like that. And so I would say it's a constant work in progress lah. There's no one easy way to really just do it, and it requires a constant effort and constantly trying to basically re-educate and get them to understand this the need for this change lah, and the importance of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree on that. I think we've had the privilege, of course, to sort of bring in fresh blood, younger people, newer people.
Because it's tech, right?
Yeah, it's tech.
tech,
So
yeah.
we've had to innovate quick, right?
Yep.
We've had to innovate quick, and I would say the biggest stopping blocks is always going to be the people.
Talents,
Yeah,
right?
the
The
talent.
talent.
Yeah. So if they're not willing to change and learn and adapt, for our industry, they're going to be left behind, right? Even our finance department, they've had to go through a lot of change, a lot of education. Even from a management perspective, right? We've had to put in our case, really explain why we needed to do certain things. It's taken a lot of effort, as Han Jun mentioned. It's not just a one-day affair, but really a constant affair to drive that, and sort of showcase how this kind of changes can help the company. And some of them, of course, like you said, could end up being a white elephant in the room, right? You spend a lot of money, and those softwares go unused. So that's something that we've really tried to avoid, right? Tried to avoid that as much as possible. Focus on the key areas that we want to improve in, and build projects around that and drive those projects.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting is because it's also like there's a lot of skin in the game, right? It's like your own, like sort of like your parents' legacy, and then you're taking up and you want to make things work, right? So whatever happens, like I'm sure like you guys will find a way lah to make sure, because I'm not sure if this kind of like it might start off another conversation, but but we'll keep it casual. But basically, like, okay, do you guys have any thoughts? Like, okay, do you want to like continue on deep and then further, like this is the legacy that you want, or like, because like why I touch on that point, like I think we discussed just now also, right? Like like my perspective, okay, when you go in a family business, it's really like all in, and whatever happens, it's like you make it work no matter what, because it's like something that you sort of invest a lot of time lah. But I think some, like I was hearing different perspectives sometimes. It depends on different families. Sometimes there's a lot of options, right? Yeah. So just wanted to maybe we touch on this final topic and then we can close things off.
Sure.
Well, I think for me personally is definitely I want to make the business work. We know the struggles that our parents have gone through
To start, right?
To start the whole thing, and to really provide for our family, provide for me and my brothers.
Yep.
And that's something that I personally wouldn't want to go to waste, right? Of course, end of the day, let's say if we manage to achieve some of our goals in the future, 10, 15, 20 years, and there are many options later on, right? And that one will come to it when it comes. But at this point in time for us is how can we ensure that this business is living up to that legacy which my dad has built, and continuing that legacy. That's for me personally.
Because like there's a saying, right? And I think it's true for a lot of things. From 0 to 1 is probably the toughest, and then scaling it is also the next thing. And I think like you guys have already scaled to a extent, but what's next? And that's why Evan Low is there. So what about you, Han Jun?
For
What's
me,
your
I try to think long term,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's also really hard to predict what will happen. I just think of it as there's two parts to this lah. Okay,
Yeah.
The first part is between now and when my parents are still going to be in the the company, and then the one after when they leave the company, what will I do then?
Yep.
Right. So of course, part one is pretty straightforward. Just continue doing what it is that we do. Basically, just trying to grow the company. And then after they take their leave from the company, what that will become. Then the next question is, what do I want to do with it now? So of course, I think for me personally, I would try to take it the next step lah. Okay, let's get it to the next level. and then we'll reevaluate again from there, because I really wouldn't know like
Yep.
how long that would take, first of all, and second of all, at that point things would be different. I would have my own family.
Yeah.
You know, certainly, is this the question would be, is this something that I want my kid, whether son or daughter, to do or not?
Kids.
And a better question is whether our kids,
Both of you will be great
and
fathers.
whether you know, whether do I really want to dedicate my entire life also to doing this? Certainly, maybe like at some point I can take a more backseat role and maybe explore other things, because I think from part one you would know that
Yep.
my journey here is been basically just trying lots of different things lah.
Yeah.
It's totally unrelated, and you know, and I still have my passion for games. Maybe explore something on that front. I enjoy eating as well. Maybe I want to explore something F&B related.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But because it's really too far in the future
Yeah.
to tell
Yeah.
at the moment lah.
I think
Yeah.
you guys definitely like at least, you know, why I ask this kind, because like it's always interesting, like, okay, do you go in, you stay on? But I think like just summarizing what you all have shared, right? That's definitely short terms. That's like your yearly KPIs, and then the medium term is like really to take it to the next level, like really growing, and then I don't know, maybe listed. I don't know, like there's a lot of opportunities and
Options,
stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then when you get there, then who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows after that? Yeah, depends on your wife, depends on
Yeah.
your kids and stuff. And actually, Han Jun, you foreshadowed like one of the last question that I wanted to ask is like, okay, let's say you do have kids and everything. Do you have that expectation that you want them to continue, you know, the legacy that you've built? Let's say your dad have already created, and then you 1000x the business, and then you're like, okay, son. Then you slowly see it. Would you have that same expectation to your son? I just wanna hear like the third generation perspective. Like now you guys are going through as second generation.
Yeah. Having been in that position, I won't force it on them lah. Surely lah. It's something
very
that
politically correct answer lah. Right?
Yeah, because I mean, no lah.
Yeah.
You have to understand that like it's being in the family business also. There's a certain stress in it that it's not to say it's not a certain stress on like whether you do the job well or not, but it's also like the expectation lah. You have to manage like your parents' expectations, and then your own expectations and goals as well. And then, you know, so it doesn't help that like, you know, sometimes you go back home, you know, and you still got to think about work lah, because your parents are there, kind of thing. And I think maybe I will probably try my best to like keep it as open as possible. But of course we wouldn't know what they will think lah. You know, as best as we can try.
I think just guiding them lah.
Just guiding them.
Just really guide them to, for I have the similar sort of thinking, which is I wouldn't want them to feel like they have an obligation or feel forced to join the family business. But just really guiding them and educating them. If they really want to, then that will be their choice.
We actually have a supplier that it is still a private company after 400 years. It is still a family-owned business in Europe, in I think Belgium. I think it's a Belgian company. Okay. Basically, the town, like I think 60-70% of the people in the town works for that company. And until now, I think don't know how many generations. The current boss is like the grandmother still comes in and sign checks and sign documents and things like that. Yeah, literally, and it's still entirely private owned, not even listed or anything.
Okay.
So that's the difference lah. In you know, some of those, there are companies like that, family businesses like that, and at the same time, like you know, a little bit younger ones like us. Yeah, just to give some perspective.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a very cool. I also wanted to throw that back to you. If currently you're in that, you know, family business where it has been running for 400 years, then I think it will be very different. Like, because it's more than just your family business anymore. It's really for the town.
It's really for the town.
It really impacts a lot of people's lives.
Yeah. I cannot imagine being in that person's position.
Then probably
like
by then,
the situation is
very different.
It's
really.
different.
It's very different. Yeah.
And so lucky lah.
Yeah. You guys
lucky
have
or unlucky lah, I don't know.
I mean, everything.
It's very personal.
We always preach everything happens for a reason, right? Anyway, just to sum things up. Oh yeah, you answered the part about the I think just to sum things up, like I think both of you, be great parents lah. Know you guys for so long and everything. Yeah, don't know why switching gears would be so so sentimental already, right? But anyways, like I just say like, what the best the parent can give to the children is actually not to push things, like really just guide them. You know, the thought process, the values, right?
I think it's especially more relevant in this day and
Yes.
age, when anything is really possible with internet and everything, and
Exactly.
and it's globalization and everything. You're not entirely forced to doing whatever just within your area, right? The world is your oyster, those kind of thing.
It's really true now.
The situation is different.
It's really true now.
Totally different.
Yeah. So you just teach them like your values and make sure they grow up correctly.
Yeah, happy can already lah.
There's no right or wrong way, but as long as you give them your thoughts, your framework, and then the guidance, and if they have that right, then basically whatever comes at them, like, because you guys are like the living example, right? Like based on whatever you see, you form your own thoughts, and then you double down on and invest your time doing that.
Yeah.
So I think with that, it's a pretty long, casual type of episode. Hope you guys listening out there also have some new perspective on what working in the family business is like, the upsides, the struggles, what comes with the working in the family business kind of package, right? How you divide work is work, family is family. And so hopefully that was interesting. If you guys found that interesting and have other new topics that you want us to cover, or have follow-up questions to Evan and Han Jun, please share. The only way we grow the podcast is by having you guys share the stories, and making them worthwhile. So I think with that, I really thoroughly enjoy the conversations with both Han Jun and Evan. And once again, thank you very much for your time. Now you can head back to your next meetings, all right? With that,
Thank you, Unjay.
Thank you.
see you next time. All right, bye.